Hello everyone, this is me Debochmita Sharkar. Today we are going to talk about the trade and trade from trade to territory chapter 2 the company establishes power third part. So we did till the battle of Plassey. Now we'll move on to the promise of riches, the battle of Buxar and so on. The promise of riches. The territorial ambitions of the mercantile East India Company were viewed with distrust and doubt in England. After the Battle of Plassey, Robert Clive wrote to William Pitt, one of the principal secretaries to the English monarch, on 7 January 1759 from Calcutta. What he wrote: but so large a sovereignty may possibly be an object too expensive for a mercantile company. I flatter myself that there will be difficulty or no difficulty in obtaining the absolute possession of these rich kingdoms. Now I leave you to judge whether an income yearly of 2 million sterling with the possession of 3 provinces be an object deserving the public attention. Then, after Battle of Plassey, Robert Clive, the Battle of Plassey was fought between Robert Clive and Sirajuddaula, and Robert Clive was got the victory. So, after the Battle of Plassey, Robert Clive wrote to William Pitt. William Pitt was one of the principal secretaries of state to the English monarch. He wrote on 7 January 1759 from Calcutta that but so large a sovereignty may possibly be an object too expensive for a mercantile company. So large a sovereignty can create a problem because it's very expensive for a mercantile company. I flatter myself that there will be little or no difficulty in obtaining the absolute possession of these rich kingdoms. Then he told that there will be no difficulty, little or no difficulty, if we obtain the absolute, the full possession of the rich kingdoms, means of Indian territories. Now I leave you to judge whether an income yearly of 2 million sterling with the possession of 3 provinces be an object deserving the public attention. Then he gave greed. Then he told that it's up to you if an yearly income of 2 million is profitable or not. And it will also gain the public attention. After defeat at Plassey, Sirajuddaula was assassinated and Mir Jafar made the Nawab. The company was still unwilling to take over the responsibilities of administration. Its prime objective was the expansion of trade. If this could be done without conquest through the help of local rulers who were willing to grant privileges, then territories need not to be taken over directly. Soon the company discovered that this was rather difficult, for even the puppet Nawabs were not always as helpful as the company wanted them to be. After all, they had to maintain a basic appearance of dignity and sovereignty if they wanted respect from their subjects. After Sirajuddaula was defeated and was shot by Robert Clive, Mir Jafar, who helped the British officers to win, was made the Nawab. The company was still unwilling, means when they got the puppet ruler of their choice, they were still unwilling to take over the responsibility of the administration of the politics. So, because their prime intention, the first and foremost intention was the expansion of trade, was profit, okay, for money. And if this can be done without any trouble, without any difficulty, through the help of the local rulers, the local puppet rulers, who were willing to grant privileges, the entities need not to be taken over directly. Soon the company discovered that this was rather difficult. Then the company discovered that it has become very difficult for them, because the puppet nawabs are also not willing to help the company as the company wanted them to be, because the local rulers have to maintain a basic appearance of dignity and sovereignty to their people, so to get respect from them. What could the company do? When Mir Zafar protested, the company deposed him and installed Mir Kazim in his place. When Mir Kazim complained, he in turn was defeated in a battle fought at Buxar, 1764. Driven out of Bengal, and Mir Zafar was reinstalled. The Nawab had to pay rupees 5 lakh every month. But the company wanted more money to finance its wars and meet the demands of trade and its other expenses. It wanted more territories and more revenue. And by the time Mir Zafar died in 1765, the mood of the company had changed. Having failed to walk with the puppet Nawab, Clive declared that we must indeed become Nawab ourselves. Then, as it was becoming difficult for the company to rule or to trade, and when Mir Zafar had protested them, the company thrown him from his place and installed Mir Kazim. So Mir Kazim was the son-in-law of Mir Zafar. So he was installed when Mir Zafar was being thrown out of his place. When Mir Kazim then complained, he then again was defeated at the Battle of Buxar, and then again Mir Zafar was reinstalled. So, and when Mir Zafar was reinstalled, then the Nawab had promised to pay 5 lakh every month. That time 5 lakh is very much. But the company wanted more and more money to finance its war. It was because they fought Battle of Buxar and Battle of Plassey, and that time money was being expended, and for that they want to replace those money and they have to meet the demands of trade and other expenses. They wanted more territories and more revenues. And when Mir Zafar died, the mood of the company then changed. They had failed to work with the puppet Nawabs, and then Clive declared that they must indeed become Nawabs themselves. They have to become Nawab so that they can get more territories, revenues, and get more money. Finally, in 1765, the Mughal emperor appointed the company as the Diwan of the provinces of Bengal. In 1790, this Mughal emperor is, of course, Aurangzeb. After Aurangzeb, like that. I'm very sorry, because Aurangzeb died on 1707, so it can't be Aurangzeb. So it will be after Aurangzeb. I think Aurangzeb or their sons who inherited. Okay, So one of the Mughal emperor appointed the company as the one of the provinces of Bengal. The Diwani allowed the company to use the vast revenue resource of Bengal. This solved a major problem that the company had earlier faced. From the early 18th century, its trade with India had expanded, but it had to buy most of the goods in India with gold and silver imported from Britain. This was because at this time Britain had no goods to sell in India. The outflow of gold from Britain slowed from after the Battle of Plassey and entirely stopped after the assumption of Diwani. Now revenues from India could finance company expenses. These revenues could be used to purchase cotton and silk textile in India, maintain company troops, and meet the cost of building the company fort and offices at Calcutta. Okay, so when the company became the Diwan of Bengal, the company's major problem was solved because the trade with India had expanded. They could get everything, but but they have to buy the goods with silver and gold because from Britain, because after the Battle of Plassey and assumption of Diwali, there was no money left, and Britain had no goods to sell in India. They only get goods from India and then sell to their country. So they have to get revenues from India so that they can could finance company expenses so that they could again trade properly. And this revenue could be purchased for cotton and silk textile cotton and silk textiles and maintain the company troops and meet the cost of building the company fort and offices at Calcutta, the fortifications settlements. The Nawab complains. In 1733, the Nawab of Bengal said this about the English trader. When they first came into the country, they petitioned the then government in a humble manner for liberty to purchase a spot of ground to build a factory house upon which was no sooner granted but they built a strong fort surrounded it with a ditch which has communication with the river and mounted a great number of guns upon the walls. They have enticed several merchants and others to go and take protection under them, and they collect a revenue which amounts to rupees 1 lakh. They rob and plunder and carry great number of the king's subjects of both sexes into slavery into their own country. In 1733 the Nawab of Bengal said that when they first came, they petitioned the government in a humble manner for liberty to purchase a spot of ground to build a factory house upon which was no sooner granted but they built a strong fort surrounded into a ditch which has communication with the river and a mounted of number of walls of guns upon them. Okay, so when they first came, they made a they made a humble petition of to the government to give them a spot of ground so that they could build a factory house. The government didn't give the permission, but they built a strong fort and surrounded it with a ditch which has communication and with the river and mounted a great number of guns upon the walls for their protection. They have enticed several merchants and others to go and take protection under them, and they collect revenue which amounts to rupees 1 lakh. 1 lakh. Can you imagine 1 lakh from several merchants? Then they're told that they rob and plunder and carry great number of the king's subject of both sexes into slavery into their own country. Then they take the Nawab, take the king's people to their country as slavery. Company officials become Nabob. Here, Nabob is also known as Nawab because they can pronounce it Nabob. Actually, I'm doing from computer, so the handwriting is very bad. Nabob is equals to Nawab. Okay. Because they pronounce it as Nabob because they can pronounce uh, it as Nawab. What did it mean to be Nawab? It meant, of course, that the company acquired more power and authority, but it also means something else. Each company servant began to have visions of living like Nawab. So, um, as a Nawab stays, the companies also began to stay like that. After the Battle of Plassey, the actual Nawabs of Bengal were forced to give land and vast sums of money as personal gifts to company officials. Robert Clive himself amassed a fortune in India. He had to come to Madras, now Chennai, from England in 1743 at the age of 19. When in 1767 he left India, his Indian fortune was worth pound 401 102. Interestingly, when he was appointed governor of Bengal in 1764, he was asked to remove the corruption in company administration, but he was himself cross-examined in 1772 by the British Parliament, which is suspicious of his vast wealth. Although he was acquitted, he committed suicide in 1774. Okay. Um, After the Battle of Plassey, the actual Nawabs of Bengal have to give lands and vast sums of money to the company as their personal gifts. Robert Clive himself amassed a fortune in India. He himself has got many, much wealth. And after that, when he came to India, Madras, that time we call it Madras, from England, in 1742, at the age of 18. And when in 1867 he left his India fortune, he left India his Indian fortune, it was worth of 401 Interestingly, he was appointed by the governor of Bengal in 1764 and was asked to remove the corruption in company administration, but he was himself cross-examined. Then he was cross-examined in 1772 by the British Parliament because how did he get so much wealth? And finally he was released of the case, but for the cross examined, for the suspicion he got, or the blame he got, he committed suicide in 1774. So till this much, we will continue again in my next video. Thank you. Please relax and subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to comment in the comment section below. Bye bye. Stay home and stay safe.